Right, this discussion is going to be recorded, so be rest assured, guys, we shall have access to the recordings and you can be able to watch the recordings and enjoy the math. Okay, right, the graph of the cubic function, we are discussing cubic functions, but also we shall look at probability questions in this paper and beyond. Right, the graph of the cubic function is sketched below and is ax cubed plus bx squared is sketched below. The x coordinates of a and b are 1 and 2 respectively. Right, um, this kind of information is very crucial. So you have the x coordinates. So in other words, you have the a and you have the b. Right, the A has the x coordinate 1, the B has the x coordinate 2, and then you have y here, and then you have y here. So this is 1 and that is 2. Right, so the average gradient between A and B is 5, 5. Right, the equation of the tangent to the graph of f at 6 is actually this one, minus 18x plus c. Right, determine the values of A and B. Show all your working. Right, so be good, show all your working. So let's actually get cracking with this one here. And be good. Okay, the values of A and B. What are A and B? Right, so A and B that you need to get were hinted. Here they are. They are the coefficients of the equation. Right, so the coefficients of the equation are A and B. How do we find A and B? Right, so how many marks are there? There are actually a total of 8 marks. So yeah, this question is so good and it's loaded with marks. The equation of that is actually in for the part A, we have that the equation of the cubic function is ax cubed plus bx squared. That is the equation. Right, so um, we need to find now the values of A and B numerically. Okay, right. So what do we do? We need to identify the points. So we need to identify information that has been given in the diagram so that we're able to solve this question and get our distinctions and get our hundreds in the matric exams, because this is very, very important for us. And this question we are actually looking at is question 9 of this paper. Right, so let's get started. It has a bit more work, so expect to, let me actually see. Okay, there is a question. Let's start the solution here. Right, so what do we have here? We have a f, which is ax cubed plus bx squared. Okay, some of the things you might be seeing for the first time are yonder, so no worries, because they are part of it's part of learning. So you're gonna use the fact that at a and b you have those coordinates. So at 1 you're going to have in the place of x, you put 1. So you put the cubed, and then you have the b1 squared. Because the x coordinates of a and b there are actually 1 and 2. So in other words, you have the point A. So if you substitute actually here, what do you get? Right. So in other words, you have exactly this. And this is actually a plus b, but we also have f at 2, and at 2 is 2 cubed plus b 2 squared. Okay, 2 cubed is 8a plus 4b. Right, so we have this. So now, this is the information we have. But given this information, we actually can do something wonderful with it, because the examiner gave us something more. They said the average gradient between A and B is 5,5. Average gradient means that you have f of 2 minus f of 1. You divide by 2 minus 1, and the answer is 5,5. Okay, and this actually tells us that the average gradient Between A and B is 5, comma 5. Okay, now what do we do? Okay, what is f of 2? It is 8a plus b minus, what is f of 1? It is a plus b, which is 2 minus 1. And this is 5, comma 5. Right, so what do we do right now? So you continue like this, okay? We continue like this. So now, what is 8a minus a? It is actually 7a. And then now you have what? Right, okay. Okay, this is 8a plus 4b. So this is 4. Right, so that you have 4b minus b, which is 3b, plus 3b. Okay, and this is 5, comma 5. So now what do we have? This is an equation called equation 1. Now there is something else. They say the equation of the tangent. So the graph of f at 6 is this one. How to find the equation of the tangent? Right, so we need to find the derivative of the function at the point. So now we have the following. What is the equation of the function? It's the defining equation is f of x, which is ax cubed plus bx squared. So, which is 3ax squared plus twice bx. Okay, this is exactly the equation. But there's something we know that this here is actually, it attains a value. In particular, you have been given information. The equation of the tangent at x equal to 6 is minus 18. So which means that f prime at 6 is actually 3a 6 squared plus twice b into 6. Okay, so you have that. And so this gradient is actually the slope. Okay, remember, if you want to find the gradient of a tangent, the tangent is of the form has the equation this, which is the slope. This that is the slope. So which means that the slope is minus 18. So you put minus 18 here. Okay, right. We need to multiply everything. Now, if you square 6, you get 36 by 3, which is 108. So which means 108a plus 12b is equal to minus 18. Okay, so you get an equation which is equation 2. Okay, so we have exactly that. So now what do we do? Okay, we have these two equations. And when we have these two equations, we can deal with these two equations. Right. Um, we can multiply the first equation by 4. In other words, we underline like this and say 4 times equation 1. Okay, equation 1 is this. You multiply it by 4. Why do you multiply equation 1 by 4? We want to solve equation 1 and equation 2 simultaneously. We want to make sure that the b has the coefficient 12, so that when you subtract with the coefficient 12 in the second equation, the result is nil, 0. 4 times 7 is 28. 28a plus 12b is equal to 4 times 5, comma 5. What is 5, comma 5? Right, we are multiplying that by 4. What is the answer? Okay, 5, comma 5 is the same as a 55 out of 10, which is 11 out of 2. And 11 out of 2, if you multiply it by 4, it becomes 22. This is equation 3. And then you have another equation, which is equation 2. 108a plus 12b is equal to minus 18. Oh, now, then you need to say you have equation 2 minus equation 3. Okay, right. So what is 108 minus 28? Is actually 80. Right, 108 minus a is actually 80. A, which is equal to, right, equation 2 minus equation 3. So minus 18 minus 22 is actually minus what? Minus 18 minus 22.
Sir?
Yeah, minus 18 minus 22 is minus what? It's minus 40. Okay. Right, if you solve for a, we divide through by 80, which is minus 40 over 80. What is minus 40 over 80? Minus 1/2, 0.5. Now, we want to determine the values of A and B. A is already minus 1/2. What is the numerical value of B and how can we find it? These are simultaneous equations we need to solve. So it is in one of the IEB exams that this question was asked in 2016 November. But now look at this carefully. For example, if you check, you have equation 1, which is this, and you have equation 2, which is that. Let's use equation 1. We want to find the numerical value of b. 7a plus 3b equals 5,5. 7a plus 3b equals 5,5, which is 7a, which is minus 1/2, plus 3b, which is 5,5. Okay, we want to solve for b here from this. What is the numerical value of b from this? Okay, it's obvious because 3b is equal to 5,5. What is 7 divided by 2? It is 3,5. And so this is, now it's minus. If you move it across, it's going to be plus 3,5, which is the same as 3b, which is 8, 9. You divide both sides by 3, you get 9 thirds, and 9 thirds will give 3. Okay, look at these and look at these carefully. We have the two numerical values that are wanted in this question. What are they? Right, so A is minus 1/2, and B is actually 3 like this. Okay, so that is the answer. And in particular, these are the answers, and these are the numerical values of A and B. How did we go about finding numerical values of A and B? What was the question in this exam paper? Okay, we are going to be using a multilateral approach. We shall be looking at past exam questions, not only the past exam questions, but we shall also be looking at other applications of these in other material and other worksheets that are of the exam standards to make sure we have enough drilling on the topics, but also we shall have a chance to have you practice online because now you will try some questions as you go along. Okay, to help you practice. The question was f of x was given to x cubed plus bx squared. It was sketched below, and here is the sketch. It is a clear cubic function. Okay, it is a cubic function. The cubic functions like this. There are two kinds of cubic functions we study in the metric syllabus. So a cubic function is either of this form or it is of this form. So it is of the first one or of the second one. This one here, if you have the actual defining cubic function, which is ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d. Look carefully. Right, here you have that the coefficient of A is this. If the coefficient of A is negative, then the graph cubic function is like this. If the coefficient of if the a here is positive, then you have a minimum vertex. So it follows the pattern of a rectangular parabola, because now the parabola has a minimum vertex for positive a and has a maximum vertex for negative a. Right. We started as follows, and we were given a couple of things. Like they said, at A and B, you have the x coordinates, which are 1 and 2. So you have 1 and 2 at A and B. Yes, at the points A and B. So you therefore had x is 1 and 2, and then you got A plus B, and then you put the 2 here, and it is 2 cubed plus that, which is 8A plus 4B. And then now this is the average gradient. What is the average gradient? You have been told that the average gradient, which is the slope between the points A and B, which is 5,5. So you have f of 2 minus f of 1 divided by, this is, I need to mention that the formula that we use, this one, y2 minus y1 all divided by x2 minus x1 is actually the average gradient. Right. So it actually the average gradient. So if this is the average gradient, then what do you do? So you have f of 2 minus f of 1 over 2 minus 1. So what is f of 2? F of 2 is therefore 8a plus 4b, and therefore f of 1 is a plus b divided by this, which is 5,5. Okay, so we use the average gradient because they told us the average gradient between a and b is 5,5. So we bounded the average gradient and we equated it to 5,5. Okay. We proceed. This here is the function given, but the examiner said the equation of the tangent also at x equal to 6 is this. So which means that the slope we need to find the f primed. The f primed of the function f defines the slope of the function. Okay, at x equal to 6. So we have this. Okay, right. Now we replace, we substitute every x by 6, and we get minus 18. And therefore, this is exactly 1088 of b equals minus 18. And therefore, you have this. So which means that a is minus 40 over 80, which is minus 1/2. And then you get that b is 3. So we have found the values of a and b, and we actually have showed all our steps. The examiner said, show all your working. And the working is very clear from this exam paper. The marks were a lot because it was long. It was given a total of 8 marks. If f of x is this one, okay, now they gave us. So remember something. First things first, the f of x that was given in the question, it was ax cubed plus bx squared. We found already that a is minus 1/2. So the examiner has substituted by minus 1/2, but we found that b was 3, and we substituted by 3. Determine the values of x for which f of x is increasing. When is the function increasing? Okay, we want to find the values of x. Let's go ahead. Let's proceed and solve this one. Right, so we're gonna first do part B. Right, to do part B, we recognize the function f of x, which is minus 1/2 x cubed plus 3x squared. Now, okay, let's do something here. Right, right. So we're gonna find the derivative of this, which is f primed, which is minus 3 over 2x squared plus 6x. Okay, now we need to determine the values of x for which f is increasing. Increasing means the derivative is greater or equal to 0. You multiply through by the 2, which means multiply through by the 2, positive, which means you have 3x squared. 6 by 2 is what? Is 12. X is greater or equal to 0. Okay. Now, at this point, we can factorize. We take out the highest common factor. What is the highest common factor? The highest common factor is minus 3x. And within the parentheses, we get x minus 4. the result is non-negative. Okay. Now, at this point, we have a quadratic function. Associated with the quadratic function here is what we know. This is the coefficient is of the quadratic term is negative. So if that is the case, it means that the quadratic associated with this um, function is actually having a maximum vertex. So which means we have 0 and 4x. So now let's continue. Right, at this point, you have this one is greater or equal to 0, and that is greater or equal to 0. So it is greater or equal to 0, and this is greater or equal to 0, like that. So which means, therefore, what do we have? So at this point, if it's greater or equal to 0, it means, therefore, we have that x must lie between 0 and 4. X lies between 0 and 4. It is between 0 and 4 that the function is above the x-axis, because if it's greater or equal to 0, it is above the x-axis, and it is between 0 and 4 that once again it is above. Okay, right. The next we try part C of the question. Determine the intervals where f is concave down. Okay, let's look at concavity of the function. Right, so how do we deal with the concavity of the function? Okay, how do we deal with the concavity of the function? I think that, okay, we are able to continue. How do we deal with the concavity of the function? So we are good, we are good. Right, so um, right. So yeah. Okay, we're gonna do the question now. It's just in a minute. 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 So okay, now we're gonna look at concavity. So when the examiner says it is concave down, the exams are coming, please. And guys, they're coming thick and fast. Please, you need to understand these things, because in the exam, there's always this question. Concave down, if they don't say concave down, they say concave up. The question I ask you is, how do you deal with these and how do you solve this problem? Okay, so we need to continue solving this problem. So to solve this problem, we are here. Okay, we sorted, folks. Concave down, right? It means something. So F is concave down. Is concave down. When? When is the function concave down? It is concave down when the second derivative is negative. It's less than 0. And therefore, now we're going to find the first derivative is this. Let's find the second derivative. So you bring down the 2 here. Right, you have that. You have. Right, you have. Okay. This is the second derivative. So you find, rather, this one is the first. Right, so we have that the first derivative is taken from there. We have already got it. So is minus 3 over 2x squared. Okay, I know that Ayanda might be watching this saying the derivative is doing what here. What is the derivative? Which is the slope. So you bring down 3, then you subtract 1 from it. You 2 times 3, then you get a 6, then 2 minus 1. So 2 minus 1 becomes the new power 1. Right, so let's find the second derivative. So now you have 2 times this, which is minus 3x plus 6. Now we have exactly these, and we say that these must be negative. Okay, for concavity downwards, or concave down nature of the cubic function. So now at this point, what do we have? So we can transpose the terms. So it means we have minus 3x is less than minus 6. So if you have minus 3x, you have minus 6. So you're going to divide by minus 3 on the left, divide by minus 3 on the right of the equation. And if we do that, the inequality that is less is going to become greater than, which means that x is bigger than 2. Right, x is bigger than 2 like this, and that becomes the answer. That becomes the answer. So x is bigger than 2. And the question was here, determine the intervals where f of x is concave down. Concave down when x is greater than 2. That is the answer. That is the solution. Concave down when x is bigger than 2. How did you do it? We found the second derivative and we compared it with 0, and we said it must be less than 0 for these to be concave down. Next question. Next question, question 10. Okay, let's look at some applications of this before we look at some other questions on probability. Right, we're going to look at some questions on finding the probability. Okay, but before we look at the probability, let's look at this one, very easy, and just to have some fun. Right, a head box in the shape of a circular cylinder is to be constructed in such a manner that the sum of its height and the radius is 9. Right, so the sum, the summation, so we're dealing with the summation. Right, the summation of the height and the radius. Of the height and the radius is 9 units. Determine the radius of, right, yes, determine the radius for which the cylinder has the largest volume. Okay, right. What is the volume here? Right, so here we can do a couple of things. If the sum, it means when you add the height, the sum of the height and the radius. You add the height and the radius, you get 9, which means that the height is actually the same as 9 minus r. Then the next thing is you're going to find a volume. So the volume is the area of the base. What is the area of the base? It is pi r squared h, which is the height. So now we have the following. So you have pi r squared. What is the height? The height we already know, because this is the formula for the volume of a circular cylinder. And then now the height is 9 minus r. So we substitute 9 minus r, and then we do perform further multiplication. So at this point, you multiply through by the 9, which is 9 pi r squared. And then we have minus pi r cubed, multiplying through there. We find the next thing is need to find the maximum possible volume. And therefore, to find the maximum possible volume, we need to proceed as follows. Right, so which means that we're going to find dV dr. What is dV dr? It is 18 pi r minus 3 pi r squared. That is the derivative. And we must equate the derivative to 0 for the maximum. So if we equate it to 0, we proceed to the other side of the head box. And now moving to the right-hand side of the head box, we have 18 pi times the radius minus 3 pi r squared equals 0. And what do we do? We have actually 3 pi r, which is the same as 6, like that. So you have 6, but you multiply 6 by 3, you get 18. Right, here you plot 3r, and then you have this. Okay, right, we have that one. The radius is obviously not equal to 0 because we can see that it is a hollow cylinder. Okay, it is a cylinder with an internal open space, and the radius is actually 6 units. Okay, so we are good. Right, and obviously the question was determine the radius for which the cylinder has the largest possible volume. So this one is a section on optimization. Optimization. I know that Ayanda might be looking at this with Marvel. We have to spend a lot of time on these, Ayanda. So please just forgive me that some of these might be advanced. It might be things you have not seen quite yet, but you are yet to see these full power. Okay, so what was the question? Determine the radius for which the cylinder has the largest possible volume. So we are finding the volume of a cylinder. What is the formula for the volume of a cylinder? It is volume equals pi r squared h. How is this formula determined? Okay, folks, we need to learn that the volume of anything, I mean, literally anything under the sun, is the volume of anything is the area of base. Area of base multiplied by the height. If somebody says to you, find the volume of something, you must say area of base by the height. So the base is a circle. So if in the top is a circle, what is the area of a circle? It is pi radius squared. That is why the this one is pi radius squared base area of the circle multiplied by the perpendicular height perpendicular to the base of the hollow cylinder. All right, so this is solid. And we then proceed to the next question. And the next question is on probability. Let's enjoy probability a little bit together. Let's look at how probabilities are still here. The length of 80 worms, there are 80 worms recorded in the table below. Okay, so we are dealing with worms now. And how many worms are there? There are a total of 80 worms that are being sampled. So we are sampling here. Okay, right. What is the next thing we need to do? In centimeters are recorded in the table below. Let's look at the two worms were chosen at random. Find the probability that both worms were longer than 5 centimeters, but less than or equal to 15. Okay, let's look at this question. Now we need to calculate the probability that both worms, right, were longer than 5 centimeters. So if you look at the length in centimeters, between 0 and 5 centimeters, you have 9 of the worms. And then between 5 and 10, including 10, you have 21 of the worms. This is not cumulative. It's just frequency. And then now you have the length in centimeters. Between 10 and 15, you have 25. Between 15 and 20, the length, because somebody was looking at the worms and they were measuring the length of each worm. Right, from 15, length 15 to 20 is a bit longer, this one. This worm, that is between 50 and 20. How many of those? There are about 17 of those, and so on and so forth. And the lengths of 80 worms in centimeters are recorded. So how do you know that these worms are 80? So when you add everything, like 9 plus 21 is what? Is 30. 30 plus 25 is 55. 55 plus 10 is what? Is 65. 65 plus 7 is what? Is 72. 72 plus 8 is what? Is 80. So it means that the total equals 80, right? The total equals 80. And then now you need to find two worms. Two worms were chosen at random. Find the probability that both worms were longer than 5 centimeters, but less than 15. Okay, anyone who knows how to calculate the probability? We shall do the corrections now. I want to see if somebody can do this question quickly. If we can just give the probability here, the probability that both worms were longer than 5, but less than or equal to 15. Right, less than or equal to 15. Okay, and this takes us to, okay, I mean the total here. The total equals 80 worms. That's what I'm saying. So it means 80 worms. Now, if you have that the both worms were longer than 5, but less than or equal to 15, longer than 5. Okay. So in other words, but less than or equal to 15. Okay. 15 is here, but less. So you're looking at 25. You're looking at 25 plus 21 divided by 80. 25 plus 21 divided by 80, because the worms are 80 altogether. Now, but obviously we're looking at both worms. Right. Now, in other words, if you are to look, you are to consider two worms were chosen at random. If you choose two worms at random, right? So you're gonna choose the first worm. So after you've chosen the first worm, you need to choose the second worm. But after you've chosen the second worm, out of the 8, you'll be choosing from the 79 remaining worms. And from the 79 remaining worm, you'll have to choose also from less than the 15 and obviously greater than 5. So you are dealing with this one plus that one. So you are dealing with 25 plus 21, but you are minusing 1 that you took there. Okay. So this one is 46 divided by 80 times 45 divided by 79. And what is the answer? The answer is 0,3. The answer is 0,3. So the probability is 0,3. The probability, because they were saying find the probability that both worms were longer than 5. Okay, remember, longer than 5 means that you are here and now you are moving from here and then but less than 15. So you are looking at this region here. Longer than 5 because this is up to 5, but longer than 5 is here, 21 and 25. And then less than 15, 15 is here. So less than 15, you just to take this part. Okay, right. Let's continue looking at the probability here and calculating the probability as it is asked. Find the probability that both worms were longer than 5 and less than or less than or equal to 15. One worm was 5 centimeters or less, and the other was longer than 15. The marks are 4. Whoop. Okay, interesting question. Right, so let's look at this one about more probability questions, and but also let's look at what happens to the worms. Okay, right. Now, in this question 2, you're going to do it as follows. One worm was, remember, here, this question is about 2 worms were chosen at random. You have 80 worms, and they're choosing 2 out of the 80. Right, now, one worm was 5 centimeters or less, 5 centimeters or less. So it's here. One of the worms is here, 5 centimeters or less. And the other was longer than 15. Longer than 15. It was not just 15. So it was longer than 15. So it was like from 15 up to somewhere there. Bigger. Right. So I'm putting an open circle here because of the fact that 15 itself is not included. Okay, let's continue and solve the probability question. So now if you look at the fact that one worm was 5 centimeters or less, 5 centimeters or less. Right. So in other words, you are dealing with a 9 out of 80. Okay. So here you have 9 out of 80. Simultaneously, one worm was 5 centimeters or less, and the other was longer than 15. What is longer than 15? Longer than 15 is going to be from here to there, which is 17 plus 8, which is 25. So, which means that you're going to have 25 out of 80. So, which means that here you have 9. Then now you continue and say, obviously, from 0 to 5, less than 5. But the other property is that one worm was that. But remember that there is more information now that is necessary here. The worm that was one worm was less than 9 or that, and the other worm was that. So it means that obviously you will have to choose from these ones. So the probability of choosing here is 9 out of 80. Right. After you have chosen one here, it actually means that you need to now continue and analyze these and furthermore say you'll have to choose one here, and then out of the 80 now you will be left with 79. So you're going to put a plus here. You're going to be left with 79. And then now you also need to choose, obviously, clearly the probability that at this point, one was longer than 15. Longer than 15, you have exactly this from 17 to 18, and this is exactly 25. Okay, so you have this 25. Okay, maybe I write it up here. Okay, it's not very clear. Okay, let me write it up here. So now look, one worm was 5 centimeters or less, which means you had 9 out of 80. And then the other one was longer than 15, which means you are here, which means it's going to become 17 plus 8, which is 25 out of 79 plus. Right. So after that, then obviously you continue with the process. Right. Now, at this point, you analyze and say, obviously, the other worm was longer than 15. So 17 plus 8, which is going to be 25 out of 80. You multiply by the other one here. Here, you come here, you choose, but after you've chosen from this side, you're going to have to choose from this side as well. And then you have 9 out of 79. Look at these carefully. So the way we do the probability, it is a random thing, but one worm was 5 centimeters or less, and the other was longer than 15. So now either you are to remember two worms are chosen at random. So if you choose the worms, either you choose this one first, that's the shorter one, and then you choose the longer one. So you choose 9 out of 80, and then you choose 25 out of 79. Or you choose the longer one, 17 plus 8 out of 80, and the shorter one, 7 out of 9 out of 79. What is the answer? Okay, so if you do this carefully, right, multiplying everything here is going to give us 45 simplified fraction divided by 1264 plus. This is 45 divided by 1264. And so this is 45. Adding everything is 45 divided by 632, which is approximately 0.07. So that is the answer. So now it's about one worm was less than 5. One worm was 5 or less, and the other worm was okay. My point, guys, from this question, it's not usual they ask this question like this. The examiners can be very creative, so they sometimes go out there to get you. So you need to make sure that you can analyze and interpret questions that look different, And this one, obviously, it's a table sort of question. So you have shorter, those worms that are short, longer, and some are a little bit longer. Okay, but yeah, the length is 0 to 5 is shorter, 5 to 10 a bit longer, and so on. Okay, let's look at the next question. The word catalyst is given. Okay, you know what a catalyst is. So now they've given you a catalyst. The catalyst is studied in chemistry. Okay, a catalyst is studied in chemistry. It is the chemical substance that is able to um, um, fasten the rate of a chemical reaction without actually taking part in the reaction. That is called a catalyst. It makes the reaction faster. But the word catalyst is given to determine the number of different ways that the letters can be arranged. Anyone? Anyone who can study the catalyst? In how many ways can the catalyst be arranged? Okay, it's too easy. Right. So at this point, you count the letters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you're dealing with 8 letters because I know that some of you are already sleeping. You're dealing with 8 letters. And then how many common letters are there? Like we have 2 A's, so you're going to put 2 factorial. And then what else is there? 2 A's. And what other letters are there? So you have 2 A's and you have 2 T's as well. Uh, cat has a T and list has a T. So you have also the 2 factorial. And if you use a calculator, 8 factorial over 2 factorial, 2 factorial is the same as 10,080. 10,080. Determine the number of different ways that the letters can be arranged. Determine the number of different ways that the letters can be arranged. The letters can be arranged in exactly 10,080 ways in the word catalyst. Okay, let's look at now Kanya. Is a student at the school. It's a learner at the school. There are 6 red cards and 1 black card in a box. So we're doing probability now, but there is a box. In the box, there are 6 red cards and there is 1 black card in a box. Busi and Kanya take turns to draw a card from at random from the box, with Busi being the first one to draw. The first person who draws the black card will win the game. Assume that the game can go on indefinitely. So now there are 6 red cards and 1 black card in a box. So now how does the person win the game? So in other words, you just draw a card, remove a card from the box. But now the one who wins? The first person who draws the black card will win. So you must draw the black card. If you draw the black card, you will win the game. If you draw the black card, you will win the game. Assume that the game can go on indefinitely. If the cards are drawn with replacement, determine the probability that Kanya will win, showing all working. Let's look at this. If the cards are drawn with replacement, determine the probability that Kanya will win, showing all working. So we're looking at the probability of Kanya winning. Right, we're looking at the probability of Kanya winning, but also we are effectively saying these can go on and on and on. And let's do the question. Right, so the probability of Kanya, the probability of Kanya will win. The probability of Kanya will win. There are 6 red cards and 1 black. So we're dealing with a total of 6 plus 1 cards, which is 7 cards. So if there are 7 cards, You have 6 out of 7 cards. Okay, yes. And so if they draw first, now remember that if the cards are drawn with a replacement, so you draw the card and then you replace. After you've taken the card, you can see that you have not taken out the black one because there's only one black. So you put back the card. Somebody puts their hand without looking at the cards and they pick the card. If they find that it's not black, they keep putting in, okay, until somebody wins. Okay, now there's a total of 7 cards, 6 plus 1, the red and the black. So the first card is going to be drawn in how many ways? Okay, right. So now let's look at these very carefully. Okay, let me do the question as like so. Let me do the question like so. Right. Let me do the question like so. Okay. Right, the probability of Kanye winning the game, guys, is given as follows. Just full attention. So now you'd have to look at the fact that look, if the cards are drawn with replacement, determine the probability that Kanye will win. Okay. Now, the probability of picking um, a red card, if Kanye wins, so he can pick a red card, then a black, then he wins. Or Kanye would win if he picks red, red, red. Right, if he picks 3 red and a black. Okay, 2, 4, 5, then black. Remember that there is Boosie and Kanye. So Kanye will win if he picks red, then black, or he picks red, 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 then black. Okay, we're gonna analyze this question very well. So just make sure that you can interpret these carefully. Right, and this pattern will continue. Okay, this pattern will continue indefinitely. So they will go on and on and on. Let's calculate and make sense of this question, guys. So if Kaya will win, it means that there is a probability of the following. Right. If Kanya picks um, red, then black, how many red are there? There are 6 of them. Out of the total of everything, 6 plus 1, 7. After Kanya has picked red, the probability of picking red is that. But the probability of picking black, red and black, the probability of picking red then black, what is the probability of picking black? Is only one black, 1 out of 7 because they're replacing. So the is 1 out of 7. Here they can be red, red, red 3 times. So it means that you shall have 6 out of 7. Remember that Boosie and Kanya take turns to draw the card at random from the box, with Boosie being the first one to draw. So Busi is the first one to draw. So first Busi draws. After Busi has drawn, then Kanya goes in to draw. So that is why then um, you have they take turns, and hence the sequence here. Okay, we're analyzing this and we shall discuss that more. Right. So if there are three red, for instance, and then one black, so they're gonna be cubed. Black is 1 out of 7. Okay, if you look at 2, 4, 5, red, 5, 1 black, and so on. Okay, what are we saying here? Because Busi is the first one who starts, and Kanya draws second. What is the probability? So Kanya is always second, because if Busi draws, after Busi has drawn, they replace the card, then Kanya comes and draws also. So in other words, like in this case, the probability of Kanya winning, there can be a red card drawn, another red card drawn, another red card drawn, and then that. Because in the first draw, you would have, in the first draw, you would have red or black. And then you'd have the second thing, also red or black. 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 Okay, so we have this. We have this. You have this. So you have those red or black. Now, Busi picks red or black. Then Kanya picks either the outcome is red or black. So the probability of Kanya winning is if Busi picks red and Kanya picks black, then Kanya is going to win. Because Busi would have picked red and therefore Busi would have not won. But Kanya would have won. Because in the second choice, black would have been picked. Okay, let's look at another case. Busi starts and Busi picks red. Kanya picks red. Busi picks red. Then Kanya picks black. Then Kanya is going to win. Or Busi picks red. Kanya picks red. Busi picks red. Kanya picks red. Busi picks red. Kanya picks black, and Kanya wins. Think about the question as I have described it. Okay, so the examiners are very creative. But this here becomes a geometric series. This becomes an infinite geometric series. Okay, it becomes an infinite geometric series with the first term. What is the first term? The first term is that you'd have, and what would the common ratio become? The constant ratio would become the second term cubed. Second term, this one, divided by the first term. So this is exactly 6 out of 7. So this is called the constant ratio. From sequences and series, now the sequence and series are combined with probability. Constant ratio. Okay, now then we have the first term. What is the first term? Right. The first term is 6 by 1, which is 6 out of 7. And then you have this. So the probability of Tanya will win is the same as what? It's A divided by 1 minus R. What is the first term? Okay, right. It's A over 7 squared. 6 by 1, 7 by 7 is that squared. So, which means that the first term, because this is the formula for the infinite series, which infinite geometric series is given by this, that is convergent. So the first term is 6 out of 7 squared divided by 1 minus 1 minus the constant ratio. Okay, the constant ratio is going to become squared here. Okay, if you divide the cubed, so this one is going to become squared. Squared. So also this one is the constant ratio, which is say 6 over 7 squared. So you divide everything. Which is 6 out of 13. So this is 0, comma 6. So it means, therefore, now what is, yeah, if the cards will show all working. So we add all these probabilities, and then all the probabilities will add up to 0, comma 46. Okay, try to think of this question by Kanye and Bussy. It's a very, very interesting question, but yeah, very, very creative. Try, you will watch the video again and make sense of the probability question, but yeah, this is the answer, 0, 0.46 of the probability there. Okay, right, next question. Let's see. Right, so if you look at this one here, okay. I'm going to be looking at other questions. Let's go quickly. Other questions. Then I can give you like some practice exercises to do, so that you can make sense of the things. Okay, let's look at other graphs like yeah, this one is a cubic function. Sorry. Let's look at this cubic function, this one. Question 7. Sketch a possible graph of this one if this is the case. Okay, let's look at how to sketch the graph. Right, we're looking at question 7. It's on the graphs as well. Right, how do you sketch the graph? Right, so to sketch the graph, we have the following. Right, so the second derivative is negative, less than 0, for x positive. And the graph has an inflection. The graph has an inflection. It's 0, 1. Right, so we have the following. We have the following. Right, so, and the graph has an inflection at 0, 1. So we solve the question. What do we need to do? We need to find we need to draw sketch a possible graph there. We need to sketch a possible graph there. So if the second derivative is negative, it means the graph is concave down. Okay, and this describes the shape. Concave down for x positive. So if it is concave, but it has an inflection point at the point where you have 0, 1. So concave down here, it is like this, x positive. And then it is also concave up otherwise. So this would be a possible graph for 3 marks. So just to look at this one and to make sense of it. And this is the possible graph for the cubic function f of x, which is ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d. Next question. The sketch represents the graphs of the functions ax squared plus bx plus c, and also the function g of x equals d to the power x plus q. The x-intercepts of f are those a and b, and have the coordinates. So what are the coordinates of the point B? They are exactly 1 and 0. What are the coordinates here? They are -3 and 0. Right, the y-intercept of f is 0, 6. 0, 6. The graph of G passes through the origin and the point 1, 2. Okay? This graph. It passes through the origin and also it passes through the point 1, 2. So there's a point where x is 1 and y is 2. X is 1 and y is 2. Somewhere there. X is 1 and y is 2. Just because x is 1 here, it means x is 1 there. Okay. Let's look at this. Use the graph to determine the values of x where the product of the derivative of f and g is negative. Let's look at this one. Okay, how do we solve this problem here? So now we must find the derivative. So which means that we have f of x. Right, so it means that we have f of x. What is f of x? Right, let's look at the function. It is this one. All right? And this one is this, okay? General equations. General equations. Okay. Now we have f primed of x times g of x is negative. Okay, here these are basically numbers if you're evaluating a function at an x value. So when you multiply two numbers and get a negative, either you have a negative times a positive equals a negative, or a positive times a negative equals a negative. Okay, when you multiply, so now we're looking at the point where the derivative is positive first or negative. Let's look at the derivative of the function f, this one. A positive derivative is going to be here. Okay, we're looking at the derivative and the function g is negative. So here the slope is positive, like here, the slope is positive, but the function g is negative. Aha, there it is. So in other words, you have a solution that is within the region of interest. You have a solution that is within the region of interest. So question 8. Question 8, part A. Right. So now for what values of x will that be exactly? Right. Obviously, you need to look at this and think very carefully and make sense of the question. Right. Something to note is the in part A is the axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is going to be given by x, which is equal to, so you add this and that. So we have minus 3 plus 1 over 2, which is minus 2 over 2, which is minus 1. Okay, the axis of symmetry is going to be that, minus 1. Okay, we have this. So where is this? Okay, there's a part where this derivative is positive and the function is entirely negative here. The slope is positive. Here the slope is positive. So in other words, from what point? From the axis of symmetry. So which means that x less than minus 1. Right, because this is minus 1. X less than minus 1. X less than minus 1. This one is a negative, a positive slope. Gradient is positive and the function is negative from the axis of symmetry. How to get the axis of symmetry? We have the x here is minus 3 at the x-intercept. At the x-intercept is 1. You just add them up and divide by 2 because the axis of symmetry is in the middle. It's the mid through the midpoint. So it's x less than that, or let's look at the other part here. When the slope is negative, the f function is sloping down because a tangent to the function is going to be negative going down slope. Okay, so we're saying the gradient is negative and the function itself is positive. Negative and the function g is positive. So negative slope, like all the way here, the slope is negative, but the g is positive. So it starts here. The function has a negative slope, but g is above the x-axis, so that is x positive. Okay. Determine D and Q. Determine D and Q. Okay, D and Q are these ones. Find them. Right. To find D and Q, obviously there are a couple of things you need to note. Right. How do you find the D and the Q? So first things first, so this function passes through the origin G. So this function G passes through, it passes through 0 and 0, which is x and y, which means y is 0, which means q is 0. Well, q is um, minus 1 because g to the 0 is 1. Okay, note that. Note that part. Right. We continue. I know some of you might be sleeping. Some of these questions are quite technical, so you need to think. Ayanda, you need to think. We're gonna train you to think here. Okay, to find the values of D and Q, look at where this passes. It passes through the origin. So through 0 and 0, then substitute everything, which means Q is minus 1. Okay, but also it passes through 1 and 2. So which means Y is 2, X is 1. But um, you already have Q is minus 1. So that D equals 3. Okay, D equals 3. We continue. All right. So once you get that D is 3 and Q is minus 1, substitute, therefore the G at X is D, which is 3 to the power X, and Q is minus 1. Okay, so we have to find the D and the Q, and we have done that. Um, now, we continue now. Let's determine G inverse in the form Y equals something. Okay, now to find the G inverse, this is G. So the function G is this one. It has the equation Y equals 3 to the power X minus 1. Then you need to find the inverse, which is X equals 3 to the power Y minus 1. So you have that. So now we need to solve for Y here to get the inverse, which means that you can just transpose the 1 to the other side. And then now you transpose the 1, so it becomes X plus 1 here. And then you have equals to Y. The 3 is the base. It becomes the base of the log like this. So what is the answer? The answer to the question is therefore that the G inverse is the same as Y equals the log of X plus 1 base 3. Right, so we found the inverse. What is the domain of the inverse? To get the domain of the inverse, so you look at where this one is defined. Where is this defined? All right, so is the log. The log, to get the definition where the log is defined, to get the domain, you just take the argument and equate it and make sure it's greater than 0. Okay, now you need to note something, that when we're dealing with the log function, we look and focus on parts where the x is positive, meaning therefore this point x is bigger than minus 1. X is bigger than minus 1. Determine A, B, and C. Determine A, B, and C. Here they are, A, B, and C. Right, how do we find A, B, and C? Obviously, those have to do with the parabola. Okay, so this is another case we study very often. So now when you look at the parabola here, you need to look at the fact that if the graph is like this and you have a minus 3 and you have a 1, right? Minus 3 and 1. So you use the formula, right? There are many ways to do that. You can use the formula x here. Use this one. Y equals x into x minus x1, x minus x2. Okay. And then you substitute here, which means it is x minus x1, x minus 1. So through, you take 1 point on the function, 1 point, like there's the point 0, 6, the point 0, 6. So obviously you have through be with the coordinates 0, 6, x and y. So which means y is 6, x is 0 here, 0 plus 3, 0 minus 1, which means minus 3a is 6. You divide by 3 and then you get a is minus 2. A is negative 2. So you put the a in front. So y is minus 2 into x plus 3, x minus 1. You multiply everything, it becomes minus 2x squared. I know you can do the multiplication. It becomes minus 2x squared minus 4x plus 6. So you get minus 2x squared minus 4x plus 6. So which means therefore A is minus 2, B is minus 4, and C is 6. Draw a sketch graph of the inverse of f, show the turning points, and the intercepts with the axis. Let's draw a sketch graph of the inverse of f. Okay, this is f. What is the inverse of f? Right, so let's analyze this one. So it's easy to find the inverse. Of f, you can draw it here. You just switch these coordinates. For the inverse, this is 0. For the inverse, you have this. You do it like this. So you have minus 3, 0. Right. So you have minus 3, 0, and then you'd have the following. Right. So you have 0 minus 3. And then you have, okay, you switch these. They switch around for the inverse. Right, if you have the pointer 1, 0, you have the point 1, 0, which is 0, 1. Like that. So now at this point, you have minus 3, 0, and then you have 0, minus 3. And then you have 0, 1. Okay, so these ones now, their x-intercepts, they become y-intercepts. They, there's another point like this one, the 0, 6, 0, 6 point would become the 6, 0 point. 6, 0. And then the vertex is at x equal to minus 1 and y. X equal to minus 1 and y. X equal to minus 1 and y. So, which means you switch them around. X equal to minus 1 and y, which means you'd have a y, and then the y is going to be negative 1. Somewhere there. So the graph of the inverse of f is like this. Right. So in particular, this is going to be at this point. 8 minus 1. Okay, so this is the inverse. This is the graph of f inverse. I've just drawn it next to the original function, so you can be able to make the comparison. Let's look at the next question. Determine the values of k for which f of x plus k is equal to g of x has two roots that are opposite in sign. So you're looking at f of x plus k equals g of x. F of x plus k, f of x plus k equals g of x. Okay, if you have f of x plus k equals g of x, the equation has roots that are of opposite sign. Okay, it means a couple of things as the examiner has written it. So you're going to move the function f up or down so that they intersect, but these two functions are equal, but they intersect at regions where the x values are different. But let's analyze what that is supposed to mean. So you have these here. Look carefully as we interpret this. You're going to move this function f up or down, keep g like that, but move, add k to f or subtract from f. Okay, suppose you move this f down. At this point, like here where it is, the f, the g is equal to f for k equal to 0, and the values here are of opposite sign because an x value here is negative and the other one is positive. Next. Okay. Next. Now, you can move it up or down. If you move it up by 6 units, if you move it up by exactly 6 units, because it is at 6 here, and then you move it down, it's going to be here. So it is that the distance of 6 units, because once it gets to this point, then they're equal, and the it's not going to cut anymore through the opposite one. Right. So which means that you can move it up. You can move it by k bigger than -6. Right. Because by -6 exactly, they're going to be equal. So it means that you need to move it by k bigger than -6, because then you need to move it down by that. So you can move it down, for instance, by 1 unit down, 2 unit up to 6 units, but just above bigger than 6 units. Okay. So because if it is at this point, then they're equal. We are looking at the fact that one leg must be on the positive x and the other one must be on the positive y. So this is two-legged, and it is consistent with the fact that we need to determine the values of k for which this has two roots that are opposite in sign. Opposite in sign. So one root is positive and the other one is negative. Okay, so we have this. Right. I think that it's some good time for us to say we have discussed a little bit. Let's take a break. I'll have to see you tomorrow. So what you do is I'm going to post a video in the next couple of questions, next couple of minutes, please. Take some time to watch the video. You take notes based on the noting the questions and the answers, and closing the answers and seeing if you can be able to do the questions on your own. Otherwise, I must thank you guys for joining us, and I'll send you the time tomorrow. Please stay ready tomorrow. We're gonna have a series of classes. Right, I'm gonna be having something at 8, but after that, as from around 10, I'm gonna organize classes. You let me know if you're busy, and then yeah, but yeah, I'll notify you of the time tomorrow. Okay, just after 10 in the morning, I'm sure we'll have classes possibly for the whole day, doing lots of topics, lots of topics. We'll have to do, I'll have to check your ability to do some of the topics that we haven't done yet within paper one. So yeah, stay ready. And then we shall also practice online. I'm gonna bring a lot of exercises for you to try online, because you need to practice more. You need to try questions so that you can know if you are capable or not. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Thanks, guys, and goodbye for now. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Awesome.